All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February 24, 2025 meeting of the Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners. Public participation is offered by webinar. If you go to the MVD website, mvdwater.org, and download the agenda for this meeting and all meetings, you will find a web link on there that you can access through Zoom and participate, or you can call a number 646-876-9923. And there's a webinar ID that you can enter. This is all on the agenda, the printed agenda. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. and ask everyone to rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we have a full commission here tonight. So we'll start with the first item on the agenda is Health and Human Resource, Finance and Human Resources Review with Kristen Meyer.
Thank you. For financial reporting ending of January 31st, we are 58% through the year. Our current revenue is $4.4 million, which is averaging at 71.2% of budget. Our expenses are at $2.8 million, which is at 45.5% of budget. In terms of highlighted items from the detailed for revenue expense, nothing really has changed. In terms of expense, we do have some significant loan payments. I just asked Jill for our updated schedule for 2, 9, 7, and 8, since the project is now fully complete.
Well, it's 2, 9, 7, and 8.
Yep,
right.
We were under budget, so I'm assuming that the amount we actually have budgeted will be slightly lower. But we're gonna look into tomorrow, hopefully getting an updated schedule, but those wouldn't be paid until June. So there's still roughly $500,000 to come out of expenses.
And I heard he's on leave until March 3rd, so I'll reach out to somebody else tomorrow.
Perfect. Any question on income or expense in detail? It's really changed.
Yeah.
Page 7, our fund balances. Our unassigned net position right now is roughly $22 million, which represents 17.7% of convertible cash. And as I mentioned last month, I just closed that account for the project of 2, 9, 7, and 8. So next financials, that whole column will be gone. I did do a reconciliation and moved the additional cash after what MVD was owed and so forth to the MVD operating account, which is why that 4.1 million looks significantly larger. Fund balance. Trust activity, other than interest and fees for January, nothing really has changed there. It is in line with the budget we are giving out for or voting on for this evening, along with the updates that you guys had mentioned, taking off the DBA grants for the 800,000 or 850,000 that we got the grants for. Those have been taken off, so nothing else has really changed.
Quick question. Have our trustees met recently, or will they meet soon?
They usually meet in March also.
Okay. Because we have a lot going on right now in the world that may change which funds we want to invest in. And we might want to have a look at that.
I think they might be meeting on Friday.
They might be, okay.
I think when they met like.
Well, he doesn't usually give me the schedule unless I've asked him for something, like a return for or reimbursement, then he'll tell me the schedule.
And I mean, it's not our role to tell them what to do or not to do, right? But maybe, are you in those meetings at all? No, you're not, right?
No.
Okay.
we usually, the last time we've gone to a meeting, we'll ask what,
Yeah.
they have any expenditures or anything like that, kind of as a heads up. So they, don't have to put this money, they kind of keep it.
Liquid. Yeah.
I'm just curious, if they look at the portfolio and say, okay, maybe we want to take this kind of investment a little bit on the back burner and invest into something else instead, because there's so much going on right now in the last couple of weeks.
There is a lot going on, but
Might be a good idea to have an eye.
everybody is significant in terms of interest.
Yeah, I know, right.
Last year.
I just want to make sure we're not losing.
I can send
because
an email to say.
I know,
They're
But-
meeting Friday at 9 a.m.
okay. Might be a good idea to ask them what they intend to do
I knew I
there.
saw it.
I might watch that one for a change. Thank you.
You could go.
I might,
You could go if you
No.
wanted to.
You're going to see a live and in person.
I always wanted to do that.
Do we have any questions on that? Capital reserve balance? Just following up from the last meeting, under the equipment and facilities fund
Yep,
out in 2027, that they're the two Turkey Hill booster pumps.
oh, yes.
Are there actually two portable one?
No, I think it was a double. From what I've seen, it's just been it was a double print.
So what are we looking for? The portable one or the
Something for it.
okay, that's what I thought.
So cross that off.
Yes, is that the new pressure pump for the high service? Is that the one that can come off of this?
Either one of them.
Yeah, they're both the same amount.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all I had.
Any others? I'm gonna start the normal reports in different formats.
Are you good with that? Financials? Okay. Is that all you have for us at this point,
That
Kristen?
is all I have, other than next meeting, because it is in 2 weeks. And I will not be here for that meeting.
Okay.
Some more changes,
Yeah.
is it gonna, so there won't be any financials for next meeting?
We'll have statements either to reconcile things, so.
Short and sweet.
I'm actually not gonna be on that one either,
Probably 10th.
except for maybe remote.
Okay.
10th.
I think we switched it up. The three of us are gonna be available on the 17th, so. Right.
And that shifted on me unfortunately after. I should probably be able to make it remote. So
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, do what you can. So I guess if we're ready to move into the regular session then. Looks like we have someone on here.
This is Doug Langdon from Access Group.
Okay, so that's the number one agenda item there, right? All right, so the first item on the agenda is Board of Commissioners to discuss with Kearsarge Energy a solar proposal for solar panels with Doug Langdon. So Doug, you have the floor. Welcome.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Very nice. Well, thanks for having me along. Ron and Jill and I have been talking a little bit about solar and the different ways to potentially acquire some solar of some sort. And one of the ways is, which we'll be talking about tonight, which is the New Hampshire Group Net Metering program and the rules and regulations that enable that for public entities. So Access Group has been a consultant for energy supply to the district for many, many, many years. And although we're not experts on the group net metering rules and regulations, we weren't active in trying to craft them or anything like that. We do have, excuse me, a fair amount of customers in Massachusetts and New Hampshire that have participated in the group net metering throughout the year. So it's with that Ron and Jill thought might be a decent idea if I provided an overview of what group net metering is in terms of solar, and discuss the proposal that Kearsarge Energy has put in front of you folks. Kearsarge is one of the many solar developers here in New England that would like to participate in the group net metering by installing solar generation somewhere within the Eversource territory. So when we talk about group net metering, you don't actually have to have any investment in solar panels or have any solar panels installed on your property. It's essentially what we call a virtual net meter, where you get a financial benefit by participating with a solar generator that is a host, and you as a member can participate financially because the group host is getting paid relatively well by Eversource. So what I'll do, I guess, is kind of talk a little bit about the mechanics. So in an effort to kind of promulgate renewable energy and renewable energy sources, many of the states, including New Hampshire, have put a series of programs in place to help support the growth of renewable energy generation. That could be solar, wind, hydro, landfill gas, biodiesel, several of the different energy supply types of renewable assets. And what's happened is solar developers can put up a solar farm somewhere within New Hampshire, within the Eversource territory, become a renewable group host, and solicit members within the public entity realm to be members and essentially be assigned as an off-taker to that solar farm. And any excess generation that the solar farm makes is then shipped to Eversource's distribution system. Eversource has to pay them. And at that point, they get paid, and the group members get a financial benefit as well as part of being that off-taker for the solar developer. The solar developer, otherwise, if they didn't have a group member or a bunch of group members, if they were shipping their power into Eversource's distribution territory, would only get paid an avoided cost, which is a small percentage of what they're getting paid by tariff by Eversource if they're a group host renewable source. So the relationship is you've got a developer, a solar farm, they've got to go out and get some members to allocate as offtake members. And at that point in time, it greatly enhances their revenue for having the solar farm installed. They've got to get these things financed because they're big. They're not small farms. And in order to get them financed, oftentimes in consideration for working with the host, the members have to sign on to a relatively long-term deal, 15, 20 years. Not that that's a bad thing, because essentially what you're doing is you're getting a financial offset on your Eversource bills, or maybe a direct check from the solar farm. But let's assume for the moment it's on the Eversource bill. And you really don't have to do anything. There's no capital investment involved. There's no anything you have to do. You just have to sign on and keep using electricity like you normally do. The other kind of caveat to this is unlike, let's say, if you had solar panels on one of the roofs of your buildings or on your property, and if you owned and operated those solar panels, you would be the owners and have the right to trade the renewable energy attributes generated by those solar panels. And in this case, where you're a group member, essentially the host keeps all of the renewable attributes and all of the financial potential that those renewable attributes or renewable energy certificates have if they want to broker them and sell them into various markets, whether it be here in New England or elsewhere. So you have no claim to those renewable attributes. You can't say that you're, buying solar power because you're really not. It's really just kind of a financial transaction between you and a solar developer where Eversource ends up being the enabling intermediary for all of that. You folks, from what I understand, got the proposal in your packet prior to the meeting. And a couple of, and Ron and Jill, correct, if you want me to do something else or go back over something, that's fine. But I think one of the things that they've done well in the proposal is on slide 6, kind of put things in perspective with regards to traditional group metering. And there's just a little illustration that talks about what I've just described. And probably more importantly is, on slide 8, we had Kearsarge specifically provide some information on your accounts and how it might affect you guys in terms of an annual payback, an annual revenue stream to you. So again, and I'll explain that, you'll be getting revenue back. It's not as if you're going to be offsetting or not using any kilowatt hours. You're going to still use the same amount in these types of deals. It's just that they flow back some dollars to you. And if we look on slide 8, you're looking at the first year of compensation for participating as a member of about $15,000 for that year. And they put in a schedule here over the next 20 years, and what your cumulative benefit would be at the end of 20 years is $377,000, $380,000 over the course of 20 years. Let me pause there to see if there's any questions.
So are there any restrictions if you sign up for this? Like does MVD become restricted from being able to do something?
Kind of. So one of the things that Ron had asked is, does this preclude you from having the ability to shop your electricity supply for better rates than Eversource or good market rates and contract terms of a supply rate that you can kind of budget to. So this does not affect any of those types of third-party agreements that you may want to shop for. One of the things that is in the contract with Kearsarge anyways, and it may be something that can be maybe smoothed over a little bit, but one of the things they do ask for is exclusivity for all of these accounts. So whatever accounts you want to enroll with Kearsarge, and this isn't uncommon to any of the other developers either. So, but when you talk about restrictions, if you enroll an account with them, then essentially they want that account for the 20 years. Now, if a different supplier comes along, a different technology, then and you were like, hey, geez, we want to put that account on the new shiny nickel that I just found, you'd have some problems with that. It's not impossible. For instance, we work with Keene State College, and they have one large account that runs their whole campus, and they get a majority of their group net metering credits from one host, and it's capped, and then they can get the rest of their usage if they want to from other hosts. But that kind of has to be negotiated up front with the contract between the host and the member. Other than that, there's really no other restrictions. There's no exit clause. So if you want to say, we're done, we want to tap out, or for that matter, as a whole, there ends up being a better deal out there 10 years down the road, well, you're kind of already here in bed with the solar developer. Usually they only allow termination for cause. In other words, if they default or if they've gone bankrupt or some of the other things that are stipulated in the contract that would justify the cause by the district.
We have 14 accounts. So we could take a couple of them, our bigger ones, or not. It's just that we're locked in for 20 years with Kearsarge. So if the rates for some reason go down, and
this will probably increase because even if 2 and 9 only has a partial year because it's on in the middle of 2024. And that's our biggest user of electricity right now. So this is much lower than it will be.
So the goal of this meeting is to see if you would like us to go forward looking at the 20 years. Because they did send a contract as well that Doug will take a look at and highlight those areas that we may want to negotiate further on. Or if locking in for 20 years doesn't make any sense, then we don't go any further.
Well, and there may be the addition of talking to them and saying, hey, would you accept something less than 20 years and see where that falls? Or there are other solar developers in New Hampshire that we've worked with on behalf of some of our other clients that definitely have shorter terms. I mean, it's 15 years. And some of them we've tried to negotiate the ability for you guys or our clients to terminate without cause. And we've been successful to a certain degree with that. That's not without some strings attached. However, for instance, if you do want to get out of it, sometimes they say, all right, well, if we can't find anybody else as a member to pick up your load, then, they may come to you and say, do you know anybody? And if not, then, maybe you hire somebody to go try to find some load. So it's not exactly an easy exit, no matter. So, but these are things that we feel are sensitive to our clients, which is the term length. Can you get out of the contract? How, if you can, and what's the impact to you guys? So, it may not be as exactly that, Jill, 20 years or nothing, but it may be saying, hey, given the fact of because all of the compensation is going to be roughly in this realm of 15,000. If you're lucky, maybe you get 20,000 a year. And I think that's kind of the situation where you say, hey, is $15,000, $20,000, $12,000 worth a contractual obligation for 15 years or 20 years or whatever number of years it is? And if it is, then we can continue to look. All of this with the background that really you don't get solar energy and you don't even get the renewable attributes. As best you can do, for instance, to your customers is say we're supporting renewable generation in New Hampshire by being a member of a group host. It's not like you would be able to say we put solar on our property. We are offsetting our electricity purchases from Eversource by generating our own energy. And we are generating renewable energy certificates that we are either brokering to somebody else for financial gain, or we're keeping them, and the term in the industry is retiring the renewable energy certificates, where you just keep them and you get the sole benefit. So there's a couple of different little angles that, to tell the whole story might be up for consideration this evening.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think I'm missing something. It says no use of MVD land or property. So
No, you're not missing anything. On a group net metering type of arrangement, that's exactly it. They put the solar farm somewhere else within the Eversource territory. My comments were, if you didn't want to do group net metering and participate in supporting solar power that way, then another way to do it is to go out and buy your own solar panels and put it on your own property.
So explain to me, what is our contribution to this overall construct that you're presenting here that we're getting credits for, supposedly? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, it's not exactly easily understood, frankly, because what happens is the state governments in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, what they've decided to do is create these enabling rules and legislations and allow solar development to occur and get paid at a much higher rate than the avoided cost, which is maybe a cent and a half or 2 cents per kilowatt hour. They've constructed this where if there's a renewable asset that wants to come to business, if they can bring along folks that will be members in a group virtual net metering scenario, then any power that they generate, that they send to Eversource, they get paid at the default service rate. which right now it's about 8.6 cents. So as you can see, it's a great way for solar developers to be compensated at a much higher rate. And all the while they have to have a group of members that they are associating with any excess generation that they send to Eversource. So it's really kind of a scenario where the utilities and the regulators have designed a situation where it's kind of I won't say it's a shell game, but they've created a scenario where somebody can come up, develop solar panels. You say, yeah, I'll be their member. That's fine, along with others. And they say, okay, great. We got these 10 or 20 or 30 members. And now we want to be compensated and have the right to be compensated at a much higher rate because we've got all these members that are willing to support this renewable generation.
But somebody's paying more. Who is that somebody?
It's spread across the entire rate base. So in perhaps in the water business, if you have to put in a new wastewater treatment plant, that cost is generally borne by all the ratepayers.
So the benefit for Eversource is that they don't have to generate the energy, right?
They don't have to generate the energy. They also are additionally, they are satisfying any renewable portfolio standards or any other renewable energy goals that the regulators and state legislature have stipulated for what we call load serving entities like Unitil, the New Hampshire Electric Co-op or Eversource. So they could say, hey, now we're getting an increasing amount of energy generated for renewable assets because we are now in partnership, if you will, with Kearsarge for this plant. And Kearsarge has several of them in Concord and Manchester, as you've seen in their presentation. So, they're a bona fide developer. Obviously, Eversource has been given the franchise to deliver electricity here for a good part of New Hampshire, and these rules are codified by law and in the Department of Energy and the New Hampshire PUC's rules. So it's kind of a funky financial transfer, really.
I would like to reword this in my own dumb words because I'm a simple guy. What I'm hearing is that if this group is able to win over enough participants in this program, they can now sell renewable energy at a higher than normal rate to the public, to anybody. And in return, the participants get get a credit. That's what I'm hearing.
Most of that's correct, other than the fact that the solar is not sold to anybody. It was your comment there, or any user. All of the excess solar is sold and bought by Eversource.
So,
Well, but Eversource sells it then to the public.
Correct. Right. They'll sell essentially a pool of energy that they've purchased through all their sources, whether it be Seabrook Nuclear Station, whether it be all these little small hydros that are around, or whether it be several solar or wind developments. They buy it, and you get this kind of mix of energy, and you don't get really a discernible or a single solar generated electron delivered to your meters because it's all just going into the Eversource pool.
But basically, because we raise our hand and participate in the program, we don't do anything but get a cheaper rate, but somebody else is paying for it at a higher price.
You get a stream of revenue. It won't be a cheaper rate. It'll be essentially a kickback.
Right.
What I'm looking at is, correct me if I'm wrong, our electricity, we pay about $300,000 a year based on the budget amount for this year. They're offering a kickback of $15,000 a year.
5%.
That's 5%. So we sign a 20-year contract to save 5%, but we're not guaranteed better rates.
Well, and we're making somebody else pay for it that we don't even know.
Right. So
We can still contract out.
we can still bid out for rates.
Right.
I mean, we're making somebody else pay
On
for it.
the supplier side.
Because they can sell it at a higher rate if
Correct.
we sign up. for
You
the
can never
program.
do the delivery. Yes, yes.
That's the part that bothers me.
I don't think they're actually selling it to somebody like, it's just the general rate that we all
Right.
pay as consumers.
Right, which means collectively somebody else pays at a higher
I
rate
think-
because we sign up for the program.
I think what he's saying is that if they were just to put in a solar farm and sell it straight to Eversource, Eversource is like, I will give you nothing for this, or I will give you beans for this power, because I don't really want it. But because they've come in with all these users and saying, well, we have all these users that are going to take up this power that have contracted with us. Now Eversource has to take it at a rate that they can make money at. Because they already have the users on the hook.
At a higher rate.
I don't know. Well, it's higher. They're gonna get more money than if they just sold solar power to the grid.
The reason I asked, like, what are the restrictions is because the same thing you're going for. What does Kearsarge get out of this, right? It's like, here, we're gonna give this to you for free, just sign up with us. And we're gonna give you 5% of your annual, electricity budget as it is today. So I think that's, for me, I just want to know, like, the pros, the cons, the risks, and for Wolf's concern, what's the, public sentiment around the impact of doing this? If we can get that, I mean, obviously you said the lawyer's going to go over the contract, but.
If we decide to go further with this.
Well, that's the information we would need to go further. I would
Did
think.
they look at like on our like MVD property as a sense of probably us putting in our own solar system to lower, like in the summer
Offset the
months?
Usage.
Yeah, offset our usage, and then, I know, like, I don't have solar power at home, but a friend of my work does. He has one of these, leases, but he had the solar panels on his style. Like during the summer months, his bill is much less. He almost, like, he gets a credit. So where we have 300,000 at 5%, yeah, 15,000. But if we can produce more than that at our own facility,
We're looking at that too.
and then we'll have a better.
Does joining this, becoming a member in this program preclude us from doing our own solar panel installations?
It doesn't preclude you, but one of the contract specifications is how many kilowatt hours are you as a member for any or all of your accounts going to count for group net metering in terms of a member. So right now they figured out based on the annual historical information we've provided to them about 1.9 million kilowatt hours. So that's what their illustration is based on. Let's say you put up some solar panels and you had a contract with these guys for 1.9 million kilowatt hours, and you were able to take off the grid where you didn't have to buy any from anybody and you produced it yourself, 500,000 kilowatt hours. There could be some ramifications because now you're 500,000 less than what you enrolled with Kearsarge or any other solar developer. So there is there is an impact. It may not be huge. You may only get $14,000 a year instead of 15,000, and they may say, well, we need another 500,000 kilowatt hours as a member because that's what you said you give us. So it may cause some bumps down the road.
But there's no membership fee, there's no payment in any of this?
No, it's really kind of it's new in New Hampshire. It's not new in Maine and Massachusetts. And so it's one of those things that when you first hear about it, as one of the gentlemen said there, why? Why have the regulators and the legislators put this construct in place? And they put it in place because without a major incentive of being compensated at the default rate rather than the avoided cost, which I mentioned was 1 or 2 cents a kilowatt hour, nobody put solar up because you can't make it work. You can't make it pencil out. So the legislators, which, oh, by the way, is everybody that has been elected to work on the behalf of New Hampshire residents, and the office of the consumer advocate, who has also been put there to look out for the consumer's interests and benefits. They've all signed off on these regulations and this group net metering construct. So, they've kind of, from afar, they are looking out for your interests. Whether or not it's your specific interests, that's up to you as a board.
But I mean, it's still a bit confusing to me for sure.
Well, it's the saying that, if something's free, you're the product.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
That's why I said like we need more info on those restrictions. It sounds like, if we wanted to go and use some of our property to put up solar panels, we could breach a contract.
Yeah.
So
It seems like a
way out.
really long commitment for a small return.
Yeah.
15,000, yeah.
Because, none of us knows what the power grid's gonna look like in 10 years.
Yeah, right. And have your hands tied potentially.
Right, and yeah,
I mean, free money is nice, but I don't like that construct, to be honest. If I understand it correctly, I don't agree with it.
it doesn't just like the benefit versus like the time commitment. I just don't.
So essentially, are the general ratepayers subsidizing this? The $15,000 a year payments that we would be getting? Is that safe to say?
It's safe to say that it's built into everybody's rate, whether it be a large commercial industrial customer, whether it be a residential customer, whether it be a general pizza shop down the street. It's not unlike the system's benefit charge, which is the energy efficiency charge that you see on your bill. They collect that from everybody in Eversource, but not everybody uses it. Not everybody gets benefit of energy efficiency refunds and rebates. I mean, you might buy a light bulb at Home Depot and send in your little coupon and get $3 back. Some of the larger users are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars to retrofit their lights and do new systems and variable speed drives and this, that, the other thing. So I draw that comparison because there's a bunch of stuff in your bill that you're paying for, that we're all paying for as Eversource rate customers, that go to benefit perhaps somebody else.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't be any different. It's something that the legislators and the regulators, now I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but it's something that they said, hey, this would be in the general good of everybody as ratepayers.
I'm kind of thinking it's like the way to grow the use of renewable energy for having companies that join in to, and they get a little bit, so they're more companies go into it. There's more chance for more solar power development to help expand it. So in return, you're getting 5% for being part of that group. That's what.
Doug,
I mean, at least that's what I'm kind of thinking.
you had mentioned that if our total kilowatts reduce, there could be a penalty. Is there a penalty if it increases?
No, but you just won't be assured that you're going to get compensation for any kilowatt hour over whatever you sign up on the contract. So if you sign up 1.9 million kilowatt hours, if you use 2.3, if there's room in that solar farm to allocate you more, they might. But if everything is already fully subscribed at that particular solar facility, you won't get any more if your usage grows. But that's not a bad thing, I don't think.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but the part about if we wanted to decide to do something with our own property
Down the road.
to have some more impact.
Right.
It's like Aaron's saying, I mean, it's a 15,000 on $300,000 a year is.
And it may
not
remain
much.
15,000 and our bill may be like 400,000
Right.
a year or something like that. You know what I'm saying? As rates go up, our bill may be higher, but this may just stay at 15,000. So it
Right.
could be 5% today, but it may be 3 and change in the future.
So
If you're
the
developing
desire to
another
do
facility
something
too.
on site would be greater if that happened, and we,
Sign up for 20 of them.
Then we go back and we've got the maintenance,
yeah.
that type of the investment.
And then there is an investment, did our own equipment. I kind of like not having that investment in, you know, having actual infrastructure to have to maintain is good to not have that. But I don't know. This is totally a concept I was not aware of. And even reading through this, I didn't understand it because I wasn't seeing this. I thought there was a column in here about total value. You know, the 155,000 for the first year, 158,000 for the second year. I thought that would be the savings. And then the payments would be what we would be paying into this, but I totally misread
No,
that.
I think the column, I think that's just your kilowatt hours in year one times what the current reimbursement rate is of 8.9, that equals 1, and then you get 10% of that.
Yeah. So the 10%, is that prescribed by regulation or how does that?
That's a great question. I wish I should have made it. No. So if you're able to negotiate a better, 11%, 12%, or no one's going to give you 20% probably. But you might be able to find somebody to sweeten the pot a little bit, but don't take it all to one restaurant and spend it because it's not going to be a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a higher kilowatt hour generation, does that typically put you into a higher percentage point?
Not really. No, we've seen, some of the universities in large cities are, they're brokering deals around that 10% mark.
Okay.
And they're getting 4 or 5 times, 10 times the kilowatt hours that you guys use in a year.
Right. I don't know. So what do you guys, so I guess the question here is, do we want to move forward with digging into this more at this point, right?
Certainly send the contract off to Carrie to take a look at. We don't have to jump anything right away. We can still investigate. We have some calls out with some solar stuff as well for our own stuff. So
okay.
This was just that letter. I remember I mentioned to you I received a letter from Kearsarge and Joe received a letter as well. Didn't know a whole lot about it and didn't make a lot of sense to me either. And Doug to the rescue here. He kind of explained it.
I'm not so sure I've helped any.
It's pretty complicated, I think.
It's a foreign concept. You participate and you you don't have a lot of skin in the game other than the duration of the contract and if you ever want to get out. That's not much skin. And other than that, you help support the development of solar generation here in New Hampshire, and you get paid a couple of cents for it. And it's all because of the enabling legislation and regulations by the state government and by the regulators, and it's kind of a funky financial transfer. It's more of a financial transfer than it is participating or using solar energy.
How many years have these setups under this legislation been around?
In New Hampshire, maybe a year and a half. They just finalized some of the rules not too long ago in New Hampshire. Now, Kearsarge, anecdotally, they did one of the first net metering deals with the town and school district of Franklin, Massachusetts, maybe like 15 years ago that we were involved in at that point in time as well. And the solar initiatives down in Massachusetts were very, very rich back then. So Kearsarge has been around. We've known of them for quite a while. They typically were growing their business in Massachusetts, but now there's a lot more activity here in New Hampshire because the regulators said, all right, if you have members that are public or a political subdivision of a public entity, then you can build a plant as large as 5 megawatts. And you can enlist members into that group as the host. And it wasn't too long ago where that 5 megawatt size was up in the air. Nobody knew what that was. And it really didn't make sense to build 1 megawatt plants and scatter them through, or for that matter, on a 10 megawatt area of land, create 10 different entities to do a 1 megawatt plant and try to, wheel these group net metering credits to somebody else. So the 5 megawatt threshold for the minimum size, it was recently established here in New Hampshire, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Is there any concern in your field with this being canceled at the federal level? Do they have the authority to probably do that? They did with the solar, with the wind power, right?
Well,
Is something like that happen?
I would be more concerned of the changing attitudes at the state capitol.
Yeah.
Than anything at the federal level. And, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that, somebody looks at this and say, why are we, as the gentleman to your left said, why are we socializing this cost for a couple of people to participate as members? Somebody may say instead of 8.9 cents, we really should only compensate them the avoided cost of electricity, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 cents, whatever that hour's price is.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, you may see the market dry up. You may see somebody call a force majeure as far as a Kearsarge saying, well, listen, we can't pay you because the rules of the game changed. So there are those types of, it's not really a risk to you in a sense, because you just lose the 15 grand and that's it on an annually. It's not like you've invested anything or anything like that. But there is not a no risk scenario where somebody doesn't come along later on and say, we're gonna upend this market and pull the current regulations and rules.
Right. I guess I'm still just curious what the downside would be other than if I understand we talked about if we tried to institute our own solar panels, there may be a conflict there at somehow, but other than that, is there anything else what is the downside of this?
Well, changing technology and costs of solar panels or other renewable energy, for instance, may, in a period of 1 to 20 years, may get to a point where costs for the developer are so much lower than what they are now that they'd want to offer you more than 15 grand for participation, as an example. And if you've already kind of hopped into bed with any particular solar developer now, of course, we're talking about Kearsarge, then you kind of locked out of that opportunity.
So it's just
now
an opportunity loss. It's not physical.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What are you going to say? Something? I interrupted you.
I was just about to say exactly what you said. The opportunity cost is the number of years that you could have participated with Kearsarge waiting for that better technology. So if that technology never comes and you never sign with anybody, then you've lost, 15 grand a year.
Yep. All right. I don't know. What do we want to do with this? What's the next step, I guess, would be if we wanted
Just
to.
need to know if you want us to look into it further.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is the bang worth the buck?
So for me, I mean, it's still more what does the contract say? Details on like the pros, the cons, and the risks.
Yeah.
If you sign up for this, because 20 years is a long time.
So I guess
None
it
of
might
that
be
is in
worth,
here. I agree.
Yeah.
So that
it might be worth sending the contract to Carrie and seeing.
I mean, realistically, I think it would be good to have this proposal include that information already, right? So
sales deck. I mean,
right. Yeah, I mean, there's not really no offense, Doug. For me, this isn't very tangible. But it all this does is you're saving money by buying into some organization being able to develop a solar farm, right? And we're not really involved in any of that. We don't know anything where this is, none of what you just listed without repeating ourselves is in here, right? What's our risk? What's our maybe what's our benefit is in there. That's about it, right? Right. What's our exposure? What's our commitment?
So Jill and Ron have the contract that Kearsarge provided at the same time they provided the sales deck. So they, that's at their disposal and what you guys want to do as far as that sending to the district's attorney. That you already have that. And I'm sure if it's something that you guys want to have a look at as well, that Ron and Jill can get it in your hands. So it's there and available for you.
I just want to explain too, Doug doesn't have any, Kearsarge. We got the letter, we contacted Doug and said, what do you think about this? He's the intermediary. He doesn't have anything to do with Kearsarge. He's just, but he pulled the information, gave us, this is what they prepared. It's not anything that Doug had prepared. So we can get, we can ask the questions, we can get a lot more information. We just wanted to see if there's something you was interested in us for looking at further.
I think what I would also like to see is what do other resources have to say about this concept in general, right? Like, does the New Hampshire Municipal Association have any word about that? Is there an opinion in the market whether or not this makes sense or not for the general public? Again, what I'm hearing is that we're making other people pay for the money that we're being credited. And if that's true, I would at least like to know who those other people are. If it's a general ratepayer, then I ask, is that really the right thing to do for us as a public entity to offload on the public, right?
So we're a ratepayer, so we're paying into this indirectly, our own homes, plus MVD itself, plus everyone else.
Right, but so does, Uncle Smith down the road in 88 years old, right?
Or Doug Langdon in Barrington, New Hampshire.
That's right. That's right. So I'm just not sure if I really fully understand that and what impact it. I mean, we're probably talking about tens of cents on the dollar or whatnot, right? But but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not.
It is very small. You're right, but it's a great question, and I'm sure that there are other resources and references that any of these solar developers will be able to provide you if it gets to that stage.
Just want to understand that.
Do you think Kerry is, I mean, I don't know how technical the contract is, but I don't know if it gets technical about, I don't know if that's quite up her alley as far as.
Well, we didn't send it off to her because again, we want to pay legal fees or something like that.
Right.
Doug said he would be willing to take a look at it, see, redline some stuff or highlight some stuff that we should be looking at, and then maybe send it off to Carrie. I think that'll be beneficial for her.
All right.
But I'm sure she's got somebody on her staff that's more focused on this type of thing.
Seems like it would be probably some time consuming review to kind of get up to speed on it. So, talking probably a few $1,000s of review time on this.
15?
15,000.
I don't know.
We could run it through a little AI and see what that comes out.
I mean, I'm not opposed to learning more about it, put it this way.
Yeah. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
It's more information for you.
Right.
Some pros and cons and private before we run to through legal. Maybe Doug can kind of redline.
I think also you should look to see about growing our own.
We got feelers out there for that too.
Yeah, before, because if you go this way, then that's going to affect the other way.
Yeah.
So, which in turn affect the contract that you just signed.
I definitely would like to know more about that. If we become a member in a program like this, what exactly are our limitations for doing something on our own site? I kind of definitely would like to know more about that as well.
Well, I would also like to know the argument for that at all, right? I mean, if this is basically supporting the development of any solar project in the area, what does that have to do as far as us developing our own solar project on our property, right? That's almost like now you're almost talking about curbing competition, right? And market regulation. And now we're really getting into sketchy waters.
So it'd be like one or the other, not necessarily both.
Yeah, I mean, just because we're buying into a program that enables some investor to implement a solar project, PV solar project, that should not curb us from doing that ourselves on our own property, right? If we deem that to be a good idea. If it does, then actually that's for me an indication that somebody's trying to keep the competition at bay, the private competition.
So this might be, for more geared towards places that don't have any plans to do solar.
Right.
Yeah.
right? If you have no plans or no land to do it
Right,
on,
right,
then
right,
not a bad idea.
right.
Or financial capability.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
But again, I mean, what would be the reason for anybody, you know, for the partners that we're engaging with here to tell us, but you can't do this on your own property? The only reason for them to do that is to curb out the competition.
I think,
Well, what,
Guaranteeing them a kilowatt.
right, so I don't
What's
think
that?
he said we couldn't do it, he just said it would change our wattage. And if we're going in and saying, hey, this is the amount of kilowatts we're gonna take up on your farm, and then we back out saying, oh, now we only need this much, well, now they have a problem because they need this to be covered.
Yeah, and he was saying we need to like try to.
So I
find
think
something
that's
to
what
take
it is.
over.
It's not like if we put in another well and another plant or something, great, put solar for that to cover that. But once you buy in at an amount, or once you sign a contract for an amount, you need to cover that amount of the farm.
and each of your accounts are listed in a schedule in the contract. So theoretically, I'm looking at it's slide 7 in your package. I don't know if you want to go back there, but that lists all the accounts that they would enroll. And if you're looking at it saying, all right, we want to leave 30 Continental Boulevard off of the list, off of the schedule, you can do that. Then you can put your own solar up on that to serve that Eversource account. So you can really pick and choose, you know, any fewer kilowatt hours that you enroll, you know, lessens that annual revenue stream to you. But you don't have to do all of these accounts with Kearsarge. You could do half of them with Kearsarge, half of them with somebody else, a third with Kearsarge, a third on your own, and a third with somebody else. So it's account specific.
Oh, so when you get billed by Eversource, you get one for each property, or it's in one bill?
Multiple, yeah.
Okay.
It's all the,
Yeah, but I didn't realize that you get a separate bill for each one. I understand they're, you know.
Separate meter, separate bill.
No, thinking.
So that could be handy in the places where, for instance, like down at the sand pit over there, that'd be a great place for solar power. But maybe another like Turkey Hill, where it's all shaded, that booster part, it's too close. No, that'd be good for the other program kind of thing, but that's kind of good to know. That it's not necessarily one and done. You can.
so the kilowatt hours in here that this table is based on is almost all of our usage, basically, right?
Yep.
That we're
Right.
so that 15 grand represents almost all of our annual usage.
Correct. And
Yeah.
as I mentioned, at the risk of being repetitive, you don't have to enroll all of those accounts or all of that usage.
Right. So anything less, the payback is less as well.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Huh.
But Ken, if we do solar power at specific facilities, because we are bottom up budget, the savings at one would help out somewhere else that we couldn't do solar.
Right.
They'd cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So
Cause I mean,
doing our own is still,
most likely the warehouse would be a great place to put it on that property, but obviously that's probably the least power drawn of all of our properties. But we could put it there to get the power that then, you know, would go back to the grid for our wells.
Just how about the bottom line as a whole?
correct.
So what
Inquiry, we're looking at that aspect of it, maybe putting something down there that we would fund. And just, and I don't know if I know, you know, pipe it into the
Right.
grid?
thank you, on my system.
We got a bunch of irons in the fire right now. We'll pull them.
So, so on that note, I think maybe before we send this to legal and start spending thousands of dollars on something that may or may not play out, we should probably get the other side of this, is look at the on-site options and see. Cause I have no clue how that plays out either. There's probably limitations on that, how much you can get reimbursed if you use so much. I don't know how that works, and so let's get some understanding of that. And if we can decide maybe which one makes the most sense, we might still go back to each of these. But I don't think I want to move forward with legal getting involved with this yet, even though it might only be a few $1,000s, but it's still a few $1,000s, you know? So maybe we entertain, another meeting with someone who can explain the on-site options and what the limitations and benefits and drawbacks of that are. And then once we hear that presentation, now that we know this one, it'll probably give us more direction on, which one or possibly both to consider or not, Does that make sense? Or do you want to go ahead and do the?
No, well,
I think it,
they were saying that Doug could mark up the contract about things and so if we can do
Yeah,
that
all right.
preliminarily, just to know apples to apples kind of thing.
Have you
Right.
guys maybe reached out to Wendy Thomas? Because I think she does that kind of like
Yeah, like
consulting work.
efficiency,
She did an energy evaluation down at the warehouse for us, but I don't.
No, it was at
well, it's 2.9, right?
2 and 9.
Yeah.
But maybe she has an idea of who, maybe there's somebody we can, that she can refer us to that has more general understanding of the whole
So the other question I have too,
Scenario.
which I have no clue about what this even is, if it even exists now or what happened, but what's the whole thing with the town was thinking of having their own?
Oh, that's,
What was that? And is it
so
done? Is it-
basically,
I don't even
the
know what-
town would go, like, all the residents in the town would kind of go in together to buy power at a lower cost. So instead of us buying everybody like Eversource or you going out buying it
Yeah,
from
it's
another
like
third
5
party,
different
basically,
vendors or whatever.
it would be an opt-out program. So unless you opted out, you would be in this program and the town would go and secure your rate for you. And supposedly it would save you money.
Yeah.
They have done the first steps of the program, but they didn't put it out because Eversource had lowered their rates and it didn't seem.
Oh, that's why.
So basically they're waiting until they could actually get better rates to make it
That
work.
wouldn't affect
No.
this then. Okay.
It would not.
That's called community power. And
Yeah.
I can confuse some things more if you'd like and talk about that.
Yeah, it's like a community aggregate thing,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Watch those meetings.
But we could jump on that and
No, that's like for residents and like, you can't, it's not
commercial?
it's not commercial. Like Ron was saying, we bid out, we make our own deal because we use so much power.
Oh.
The town as a whole does that as well. So that's just like a residential thing. We can probably get a better rate than they could for residential.
Do you got a quick synopsis on your opinion on that?
Yeah, so the state of New Hampshire, slow to the party, Maine and Massachusetts already did this. They've enabled legislation and regulations to allow community power. There's a couple of groups out there that will come into your shops and say, use us, we'll aggregate all the load, we'll do all the compliance with Eversource, all the marketing to your residential customers. Choose us. And, the hope is that you get a better rate than Eversource has. The problem is Eversource rate changes every 6 months. And so the Community Power Group of New Hampshire, they change their rates every 6 months or so. And then other suppliers like in Milford Community Aggregation got into a deal with First Point Power or Constellation, one of the two. And the rate was higher at the time than the Eversource default rate. And so the Office of Consumer Advocate kind of was trying to get them to say, hey, don't do that. Why would anybody want to be put on a higher rate?
Mandatory.
And the whole, I think the pitfall is, but this is the only way that the aggregators and the community power guys get business, is that opt out that she mentioned. If you were to put out the marketing pieces and say opt in, they would get nowhere near the response just because of the apathetic, response to any mailers, telemarketing calls and so on and so forth. So they actually made this so that unless you tell them you don't want to be in it, you're going to be in it. And that could be a higher rate than the utility. So it has some pitfalls. It has some benefits. But, in a sense, it's another option for the residentials. They'd like to roll it out to small commercial accounts as well, but I don't think any of the aggregators have gotten to that point just yet, because they can get a better rate because their usage load profile is much better.
Okay. Huh. All right. Well, I think we got some direction then, at least if you can work on some markups of a contract? Is that how it was left?
I'll
Yeah.
get that over to Ron and Jill, and then I'll let them, and I can assist to the extent they want to, talking with solar contractors to, get you some information for putting a solar panel, solar farm on your own property, get some costs around that, and you can have a look at it.
Yeah, great. Well, appreciate your time, and you're very knowledgeable, and thanks for explaining this to us. It was something I don't think any of us realized that this existed.
It's a new one, yeah, for sure.
So it's good to know, because we really just got to evaluate all our options before
Well,
we.
anything else I can do, just let me know.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye now.
All right, well, we can move on. Superintendent report is next.
We haven't spoiled anything yet either. This is gonna be exciting.
What's that?
We haven't spoiled anything yet. Usually we spoil like half his.
I know.
report.
That's why it's so far up.
It was way up at
It's way up.
this time.
We're gonna move it up eventually here.
So there's nothing written on our packet for this, right?
Spoil it.
No,
All right, so this is all just new.
just sampling, water quality is the first heading that I had in the old packet, but anyway, we did our monthly PFAS sampling on 2/19. PFAS pilot, skid was delivered on 1/31. Dexor and Blue Leaf are planning on be on site March 4th and 5th. Get the columns loaded, backwashed, and put online with sampling to start the first week in April. So we're finally getting moving. We did have a question on whether or not that was EPA was still gonna fund this and all that, but everything's still good.
Yeah.
So we're,
The money's still there at the moment?
maintenance, treatment facilities are still, getting finished up on the, regenning of the green sand at 7 and 8 treatment facility.
So how long is that? Is the plant down, or are you just doing one vessel at a time?
One vessel at a time, so which stays running.
Okay, all right, good.
We were able to.
I think I asked that, thanks, yeah.
Distribution staff has been busy clearing hydrants from the last storm.
Actually, a quick question on the green sand. When you say replenish, oddly enough, even though that's the oldest one we have, I'm the least familiar with it. How does that work?
They'll soak, so you take one vessel offline.
There's 4, right?
There's 4 vessels. Take one vessel offline, potassium permanganate, it's loaded in, soaked overnight. And then it's backwashed until the purple color comes out, and that's the extent of the regenning of the.
So that's a solvent or decomposing agent of sorts?
Recharges the sand to.
Yeah,
It's like an
releases all the
oxidant or
copper.
something, yeah.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, this is all the metals.
So when you normally backwash it, it's like the particulate stuff that it filters out on a daily basis that gets put into the, what do you call it? The settling basin, the retention basin, whatever. But the media itself also retains some of the minerals on it and eventually becomes less effective. So they have to do this potassium permanganate bath.
Set up off the media.
Right.
It's flowing.
So this kind of almost like regenerating the media, you can think of
But
it
it
that
happens
way.
in the tank.
Yeah.
There's no
Right.
replacement of media.
No, the media is not being replaced. It's just.
It's not, no, and there is a.
Generated in place.
That up, I want to say there is a shelf life on the media.
Yeah.
It's like 10 years or something like that, so.
And we don't have to backfill any media that gets depleted as part of the regeneration or backwash or anything. Okay.
So that went online in 16, right?
Yeah.
15, 16. It was new when the PFAS hit. It was,
Yeah, we just came online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's been 9 years then.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm checking that.
Was this ever done before? Regenerated before? Is this the
Oh,
first time?
every year we regenerate.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right. I don't remember hearing about it before.
I've heard about it on my tour.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, but
wow.
Because if you look at the settlement pond, you see like all it's colored from all of the metals.
That's something we're gonna have to do at some point is clean out.
Clean that out.
You know, the pond.
Probably loaded with iron sludge and stuff in there.
Yep.
that goes to landfill then, or?
I believe it can be landfill, yes, but.
Okay.
definitely find out. My understanding is Gibbon landfill.
Probably good cover material or something.
And sorry to backtrack twice in a row. You mentioned the PFAS testing, but we didn't talk about results.
That's for the distribution system? He was talking about the source, I think, Sam.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's our source, yeah, the vessel.
Well, I see that as one, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't recall seeing, and maybe I missed it at the last meeting because I wasn't here, but when did we ever have NFD?
Yeah, I saw that.
HA? No,
I don't think we've ever.
I talked to Ryan about every now and then we get a weird hit on
Yeah.
something and it just shows up and goes away.
I mean, it's awfully low too, right?
Yeah.
0.64, right, that's what I want.
Yeah.
But I would go back to the lab and ask them about that too, if they think that this can be a, you know,
And I thought the other weird one was even the PFOA at Society Hill, I think.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
one
yeah.
at one point.
but it's just weird stuff. I mean, we've never had, that I remember FD, I don't even know that one, NFDHA, I have glass in my hand, NFDHA. There's not even one that you commonly hear that much about
Yeah.
in general, not just Merrimack, so. I kind of would like to know a little bit more about that. I mean, it's been one time, so maybe wait for the next sample, right? So, and it's really, really low value.
I think if you look at the lab report, those are probably qualified with, what do they call them, J flags or something, which means that it's quite a questionable
Right.
result, I guess, to some extent.
So other question, Hutchinson Road, is that seeing a lot of Pennachuck water?
We haven't had Pennachuck on.
So that's the other question. We haven't had that on in a while, right?
We only
So-
got
Last summer.
So this would be our water.
Yep.
Well, let's maybe keep an eye on that, right? So
And Hutchinson is actually.
it's too far away, right?
Where's the
That goes
sample?
Through the booster, that.
Right.
Then that's the high service, so it's.
Where do you take the sample? Is there a sample hydrant at the
There's-
tank?
So if you're driving around, I don't know if you ever noticed this.
I do, yeah, a little,
The phone pedestals and all.
yeah.
It's like
Plastic,
Yeah.
yeah. Is one of those up by the tank?
it's down at the bottom of the hill by this.
Oh, it is.
Closer to the stop sign. So you actually, as you're driving by, you look at the stop sign, you'll probably see it right there.
Near Natticook?
Yep.
Oh, I never noticed. All right. I didn't know if that was like a sample from somehow in the tank or something, which I couldn't figure out how you would actually do that, but.
We use the sample at the
You
tank.
climb up,
Just recently.
lower, drill down in.
Jill doesn't climb up things.
Head
we know
first.
this, like, but
At first, okay.
All right.
All right, thank you.
We've been clearing hydrants from the storm, distribution staff. We had one entrance leak on Level Street that we've done over the last month. PFAS water main extensions, Spire Mason Road, main extension project, got the drawings. Have been received and we are currently reviewing those. Gerard and Mulking drawings that were submitted to the state. Their responses have come back and they're addressing those as well. They, meaning Underwood, adding to the plans whatever they had for remarks.
DES had some response
Yeah,
comments, is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing major.
Material, okay.
I did see those invoices coming in from Underwood.
Yeah, I did too. Looks like they worked on it quite a bit.
Right, and these are invoices we're gonna be sitting on, right? There's nobody
sitting, yeah.
reimbursing for us.
Well,
Right, there's no,
oh, no, we'll get.
It's out of the
reimbursed.
grant, right?
you saw the grant.
oh yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna go
highway.
with the other
yeah.
grant to
Thinking of
finish
the
the
highway.
construction. Yeah.
That's fully grant funded, then,
Yeah, yeah.
of those projects.
We're in a project under the balance sheet right now.
Yeah.
And once the project's complete, it will be through the grant. And then if there's anything left over, it would then go to engineering.
I was mixing up with some of the highway work that we're not getting reimbursed for. I was thinking for some reason, some of those invoices was for that too, but
Go ahead, Scott, you got a
Um,
question for Ron?
Yeah, concerning the grants, any risk of those getting stopped?
Already talking and sell all the grants that we have are ours. There's no risk.
But you haven't gotten them yet, the money.
We haven't asked for reimbursement. That was the DES, yes.
Yes, has no.
Yeah, these are not federal funds, they're state funds.
Just making sure.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
You've seen stuff come through that's,
Yeah.
you know, stuff's getting stopped, so.
Yeah,
And then the Cardillo and Sons water main work for St. Cobain project.
I didn't hear back from that. She's got a couple more. They're having a hard time getting home.
Okay, so there were 11 homes that needed hookups after the water main work was completed, and they did do some. There was a change order that needed to be taken care of. And so there was 11 remaining and a couple more
A
left.
couple left. They're having a hard time getting hold of scheduling the homeowner.
I wanted to ask about that. I see some people sharing their experiences with that on Facebook. And it sounds like the homeowners need to pick in some cases, the homeowners need to pick the contractor that does the hookup of the home.
No, they've got 2 plumbers and they've got contractors that go out.
That's what I thought, right? Yeah. I mean, there has been also feedback about that work being not always done right, but we have no control over any of that, right? That's
No,
all
it's all under.
plastic friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So as far as the New Hampshire DOT project for Continental Boulevard and Boston Post Road, I have received submittals for the proposed material for the water main relocation. Spencer might get an email them back and let them know that I'm good with what they've supplied. Training, the class that we were hosting on emergent contaminants, PFAS, with Granite State Rural Water Association was rescheduled because it was on the same day as the snowstorm to March 26th. We're going to go to a water security cyber training in Concord, on March 5th. You're going as well, right?
I would like to, but I'm gonna be out of town, unfortunately. I can probably change it. So thank you though.
Salt letter went out on February 12th. Should have been received to everybody by the 13th. And we have 138 return surveys. Included in your packets was a letter from DOT, New Hampshire DOT, to the town manager, Paul McCallie. We had a Zoom meeting with Paul and DOT to discuss the letter, what it meant, and basically what they're looking for is it to be on town letterhead, which was never discussed.
Is that it? Because I thought there was some
So they
little,
wanted to just,
some other little twist in there.
He also kind of threw it at the end of the meeting as well with that. So he needs it on town letterhead. So it's actually on the agenda for this Thursday night.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
I meant to call Paul today, but I'll give him a call tomorrow to see if he wants us there.
sign it again.
Be there if he needs it.
It'd probably be good to have somebody there.
I'll probably go regardless. But they also kind of,
Something going on Thursday.
they also said it was kind of they want to make sure that the town's aware of what this means, and then after they get the letter, they'll make their decision on whether or not they'll reduce the salt further.
The DOT is saying
That's
that?
kind of, he's kind of coming in at the end. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because we've already, you kind of, I don't know, they just.
It's kind of like, he's saying, do you really want us to do this?
I feel like he's like, if
Right.
we keep doing this, it'll be next year's
If
problem.
we keep asking you if you want
Is
us
he
to
gonna
do it,
retire?
eventually maybe you'll say no.
And the language is in there. I went back and forth with a different gentleman at DOT and he put it together. We tweaked it, put more on there. He went back to him, he approved it, and then we went and sent it out to sign. Not once does it mention in any of the emails that
Needs to be on
it's
town.
on town letterhead or because it's.
I
they
would think
want it
the
coming from
signatures,
Instead of coming from MVD.
I think the signatures would be what counts, not the letterhead.
And did they say, so is it gonna have all the signatures from all the different departments that have to be signed all over again, like it did the first time, and the school district elected not to sign it and sent their own letter in? any indication if that's going
I
to be
think
an
that was
issue?
okay, because that was on school board letterhead.
Okay,
Um,
I almost thought it was a ploy to send it back to the town and therefore the school district wouldn't sign the town's letter. So then they'd be like, oh, it didn't sign, I can't do it then because we don't have all the signatures on town letterhead.
And they want each one of the board members to sign.
Town-
too,
town
not just
councilors.
5 out of
Oh, yeah,
7.
because it was 5 out of 7 and I saw that in the
doesn't make
letter.
any sense to me.
No, that doesn't, I would push back on that.
And now
And I
there's
Like they're.
All you need is a majority.
Yes.
Yeah, if there's a quorum,
different board members now too, or council members.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, there's 2 that weren't there when it originally happened.
yeah, but that
still should just be the quorum.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That should be pushed back on.
and Paul seemed fine with it. He didn't seem like that'd be an issue, but I'll give him a call tomorrow and see what he.
So he wasn't waffling about,
No.
All right.
He was kind of as confused as I was, or
Yeah.
when I was, when we got the letter and I read it a couple different times and they asking, it's like, do we start it? Is this, we starting over again? So,
well, in their letter, it sounds like they missed it the first time, because in this letter, they're saying there's like a certain requirement that it has to be this way, and they must have missed it.
They just want to make sure it's coming from the town, asking the state to lower the salt use as opposed to it looking like we're asking the
Yeah,
town to sign off on it. They want the town to be the one that's generating it.
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll give them what they want, hopefully.
See the vote on the minutes to sign the letter. Like,
Okay,
that's all I have.
all right.
You would actually think that a letter from the town manager should suffice, because this is not business. This is not, there's no budget, there's no expenditure involved in it.
Right, and I did kind of ask,
Even in and not to tell the town council what to do, but this is an operational question.
right.
It's not a regulatory question or a policy question. It's an operational question. That's what the town manager is hired to do.
so that's what I'm gonna kind of ask Paul tomorrow, is if he's gonna have him re-sign or if he's just gonna put it on letterhead and just get more of an informational discussion where it's an agenda item, so. I don't think they're need to take a revote, but maybe they will, I don't know.
Write a cover letter that says the attached document is valid based on this cover
letter.
with letterhead, printed on letterhead, done deal. Oh my goodness. It took one email to get that pothole on Greeley Street fixed within 4 days. That's it. Now we're making such a fuss about this.
All right, so any other questions for Ron, or we can move on? So next on the agenda is the review of the warrant articles and explanations of each article, which commissioner will speak at the annual meeting. All right, so those warrant articles are after the solar presentation. Excuse me. All right, so I guess 1 and 2 are just the commissioner positions. The moderator will probably just read that, I would assume. So the next one will be Article 3.
I'll volunteer for that. Speed it up.
Okay,
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, so the moderator would read Article 3 and you would just read the explanation.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's how
If
we did
that's how
last
we-
year.
okay.
Because remember, we did not give the explanations to the moderator because the year before he read them both.
Yes.
so he will do 1 and 2 himself. We don't need to have a commissioner read 1 and 2.
I believe
That's why he gets paid.
Yes, he should do that.
I'm just trying, I can't remember what we did last year.
Well, somebody's gonna read the description,
Of 1 and 2.
For 1 and 2?
if you want the description written in.
Or should be one of the commissioners that isn't running for re-election.
Yeah.
Damn, I was gonna volunteer for those two.
I think as going out president, he could do them all.
I
think I'm sick that
There
day.
you go.
Yeah, I'll do 1 and 2.
Okay,
You want to do 1 and 2? Which one are you're the 3-year term?
I'm not.
So you're Article 1. Are you,
Yeah, I'll read Article 1 and Article 2. It's the same, it's the same.
all right.
I could probably say them together and, you know, because they're the same, one is, I don't know, but yeah, I can do a 1 and 2.
All right. So Wolf is on 3.
So you're gonna read, who's making the motion for second?
I'll make the motion because I read it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll second.
All right. So Article 4, that's is the development charge. I guess I could probably read that one. Or in move that one. So whoever's reading it is going to move it too. Is that what we're doing?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All right. So Ken's seconding number 4. Number 5 is the $800,000 to the equipment and facilities capital reserve. Anybody want to move that one?
Sure.
Scott just volunteered.
All right.
I mean, unless Wolf wants to do the rest of them, that's
No,
fine.
no.
All right. So Scott will read and move.
I'll second.
5. Wolf will second. Article 6. It's pretty much
I
the
will-
last one.
I'll read 6.
All right. So you'll read and move that one. And
I'll second it.
second it. All right. People ask questions on any of these. We'll have people.
Personal back us up.
Well, the budget and I think the budget and the reserves are coming from you, right? Any questions, usually the answers coming from you usually, right?
We're doing 6.
Getting a little bit engaged and the board's gonna come into.
Help would be appreciated.
We sick on.
On Article 4, the explanation, I would add in. Man, I added that little verbiage. And then, Article 5,
Yeah, it references the capital improvement plan,
is that, are you?
which is, yes, I didn't before. It just said the emergency part and I was like, yeah. So I like it better because it references the capital improvement plan. Yes. As outlined in the.
Anybody's asks, we're gonna have a list of everything that we've
What we
used the
spent
capital
the previous
reserves
year,
on.
what
Right.
was upcoming, what
Yeah.
could potentially be unplanned for, like the bridge movements, we haven't a clue what to
Yeah.
ask us for. So bringing up items like that.
Hey, what day is the actual voting day?
March.
It's 25th. Cool. Thank you.
I also, 2 meetings ago, I had put in 2 versions of unassigned fund explanations, because we know how much fun everyone loves to eat on that.
And you asked us for
Something
which,
kind of a simpler version, you like one of them versus the other, just kind of to go with the handout, with the budget summary and everything. What is an unassigned fund balance?
We kind of scaled back drastically, though, the amount of reserves that we want to create or take out of the unassigned funds in comparison to prior years.
Not the more recent past 5 years, you've actually put in less, but you've had all the water treatment plant projects going significantly. So you were keeping
Yeah, but for example, really,
the unassigned fund balance. Previous to me, this is what you were doing right along.
But last year we had like the legal, last year we had,
Nope, just
Oh.
these two.
really?
All the years are blending together. It's too much
They
fun.
really are, yeah.
We don't have that
When I first started,
$20,000.
you had significantly less being put in,
Hmm.
but you had so much going on in keeping it just in unassigned funds, not knowing what may happen. But Ron, previous to me, Ron saying that this is really where you guys were always at.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Articles, 5 and
Mhm.
6? for
5
the
and 6.
800 and
That it
200,000.
comes out of the unassigned funds, and it's the, you have $1 million in your unassigned funds to put in how much is in your unassigned fund? Of which I'll reply $22 million. Well, how do you have $22 million? And that's,
Do you still have answers
I have-
going for that?
I have the same conversation
Yeah, I know.
3 years in a row. So,
We got rid of the $20,000 emergency.
Right.
Put that back in, that was always.
No.
No, that was not fun.
but it's more of a.
I mean, the question
what does
is,
that
do we,
22 million make up? And to tell them that it isn't just 22 million sitting in a bank account somewhere. That is our buildings, that is our tree order, that is all inclusive.
Unassigned fund is not what they think unassigned funds means.
Correct.
It's
It's
not the
not
money in the
cash.
bank.
And I wanted to kind of go along with the budget summary, just a quick blurb that says, to kind of preempt,
Yeah.
hey, this is what unassigned funds is. So when they say $22 million, I can go, and this is what it is. Which
Well-
is in your packet.
You were asking us which version we prefer.
I gave you kind of 2 different versions.
I guess my answer would be, if you're answering the question, which version do you want?
To me, the simpler,
Hmm.
the better.
Right.
All right, then.
It's a simple one for the first round. The more complicated one
keep
can
the
be
other
the
one in your
second
back
one.
pocket.
well, I mean, it's a one line that basically says out of the 50 million, right, unassigned funds, 35, well, hang on. 36 are fixed assets, right?
Correct.
Which means 14 ballpark are. Actually, here it says unassigned 23, which doesn't make 50 together,
That's all the accounts is 50.
right?
That includes the project accounts for 4
Yeah,
and
but the
5.
descriptions you're talking about were in a previous packet a month,
Right.
maybe a month ago, 2 months ago.
Months ago.
Yeah.
But I will do
Resend those.
both of them. I will come up with what I think the average person will understand. And if you think less for us to then put into the annual meeting.
I would,
I mean, I really think, like I said, if you're gonna be answering the question, then whatever you feel comfortable with. I don't
But
wanna
if I
tell
don't,
you to
if I
do
start getting
something.
into financial jargon, I don't want
I know.
anything to go over their head.
I
And
agree.
then we get the question again next year because I didn't really answer it that
I
year.
remember before you, there was a long explanation and everyone would just be like,
Exactly. Please.
exactly.
Which sometimes is the trick to it.
Yeah, right. But there would be no questions after that. So maybe
Sorry,
that's the
teach
way
you
to
for
go.
asking.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, I'll come up with something and send it to you guys to bless or not to go with it.
If you want.
well, I mean, it is a very simple statement in the end, right? Out of the total fund balance, currently 50 some $1 million. You know, there's a large
This is what it's
portion
made up
that is actually not, you know, liquidatable. It's not liquid funds. It's not money that's sitting in the bank account. It's our fixed assets, the building, the
Pipes in the ground. the whole-
pipes in the ground and so on,
everything.
right? So realistically, we're talking about this amount of money sitting in the bank for a rainy day,
Correct.
right?
Right, and then there is that number, that percentage that, was it the state
Recommended,
that
yeah.
recommends that we have as cash on hand? And that solves that.
I will say, I think I would like to see, I don't have the warrant from last year here. I would like to see the numbers decline from last year. Because we haven't really dipped into those funds in a long time.
But we
We
have.
have the treatment funds or whatever we use every year for water purchase and,
You are using
For-
your water purchase right now.
Yeah, right, but
You did
that's,
that last year.
but that's.
right, when
was a fluke because of the weather.
Right,
And we use it for the treatment plant
We used it for the
changes.
treatment
right,
plants.
but not in the millions of dollars.
We would have used the 850 if we didn't get the grant. So
Right, but currently not,
currently,
because we got the grant.
Correct.
So the question is, do we want to signal that, I mean, we are in good shape, right? That's what the comments are from the public. If we do every year 800,000 and 200,000 year over year, do we need to do that? Is it okay if we do 600 and 150,000?
There was a recommendation, and I want to say it was, I don't remember what the number was off the top of my head, but I want to say it was like 400,000 from Underwood Engineers for
at least,
at least, and they recommended more just for way for infrastructure.
Right, but we have 800,000.
What about the $2.5 million of meter replacements we're gonna need over the next 5
Exactly.
years? And
And we're using it as well for other things, so.
Right.
we
and
have-
if we put it in the trust, it earns interest. If it's sitting in our checking account, it is not.
Yeah, but if we collect it in the first place, it costs the ratepayer money. And the argument is, do we need that money today, or can we wait a year and say we're not doing 800,000, we're doing 600,000?
Well, we're not raising the rates for next year.
That was one of my
And we're
next.
not
statement.
raising that, we didn't raise the rates for this year. And we're still able to put that amount in. I think
It
it still
shows,
is a good idea.
shows that we don't need to raise rates, so.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of my argument. Maybe we need to think about then, do we need to return some of that money somehow to the ratepayers? For example, do we need to, I don't want to recommend lowering the rates, but, maybe there should be a credit,
But I think we would have used more of those capital reserve funds if we had done some of the projects that were on those capital reserve funds. But because of the impending litigations and decisions we made,
yeah,
we did not use as much capital reserve funds as we were supposed to.
so we were collecting for those.
So we were collecting for those, and those are still projects that are coming down the pike that we need to make decisions on, like the recharge and stuff. But because of the lawsuit circumstances, we decided to hold off and buy Pennachuck water again so that we could then investigate fully all of our options after. So I think,
Along with the fact that.
But that's not my
The
point.
loan, which should have started in FY 24, and we had a significant wet season that year. Our expenses were down significantly. That now loan payment comes to this year, so we didn't need to we raised the rates in 24.
because of that loan
We were
payment.
gonna be, well, not hoping, but because of that loan,
Expecting.
that's now been pushed out 2 years.
None of that is my point. My point is the unassigned fund balance is basically earnings, right? That we have sitting in the bank that we can't do anything with right now, right? We can potentially invest them somehow, but not as part of the fund balance because, the unassigned funds, right? So, but we can take a certain portion of that and convert it into capital reserve.
Correct.
Right, and that's what these warrant articles are doing.
Correct.
What I'm saying is, since our capital reserve is still in pretty good shape right now, right?
Relatively, but we have a lot of projects coming down the line.
Right, but then we should budget for those, in my opinion.
That's what.
But we do with the
But-
capital
but-
reserve
But
accounts.
exactly, you're kind of, the 800,000 and 200,000, if you.
But not for this current year.
The rate is.
They're down the road.
But the rate is including the capital reserve account.
Yeah, of course it is, but it also, we have millions of dollars sitting on the bank account right now, and my point is,
That's pretty much all accounted for projects upcoming, based on the.
yeah, but not in the current year,
But
over several years.
that's the point of having that.
Yeah, in the capital reserve, but not the unassigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance is money that's not assigned, it's not allocated, it's not planned for anything.
Correct, so if we put less into the trust, there's just gonna be more sitting in unassigned fund balance.
And what I'm saying is, should we talk about returning some of that money instead of just putting it out for a rainy day into the trust fund. Because technically, right now, we have money we don't need.
And we're gonna need it down the road.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And we only have money we don't
But we
need
have, but that's what the trust
because
funds are
of
for.
timing issues on other things. Like the timing of the plants and that kind of stuff. That's why we, right.
Which were in the budget, but we didn't need it.
We didn't use it, so that's why it's now gonna go to capital reserves.
Yes, but we're always talking about one, okay, maybe I'm not getting my point across. Well, no, I think it's pretty
I
obvious.
get what you're saying.
We have,
The problem is, and not against what your concept, but the problem is that one incident and then we're gonna be raising the rates.
Right.
That's.
Right.
well, no, because I think that's what we have the capital reserve funds, because we're planning for incidents and unknowns. We have an emergency capital reserve, right, to a certain extent.
Mhm.
So, but because these pockets are full to a certain extent, we have made sure of that. Why are we continuing? Just because the argument that I keep hearing is we have an abundance in a certain, we have a surplus, right? We have right. And we have, because of that, money we have not budgeted for. So now we're saying, well, because we have it, we bank it in the capital
Correct.
reserve.
But it was
And I
intended
think
that way.
No, I don't think it is
The
necessarily.
200,000 is like part of the, I'm not gonna
It's
say
part
it's in
of
the
the budget.
budget,
It's
but it's.
right. It's when we did the rate study.
Yeah,
that was
right. No, I
always
know
included.
that. Yeah, right. My point is, every year we'd be getting the same complaint that we're pocketing too much money in our capital reserves. And we're taking too much of our surplus, too much of our unassigned fund balance. And just because we have it, we put that into the capital reserve as well. That's the argument we hear every year.
The school board would do the same.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, but the point is, all of these are financial burdens on the ratepayers. And my argument is, what I'm trying to say is, if our capital reserve funds are within what we are planning for and are satisfying to whatever, guidelines, the state of New Hampshire gives us. And I mean, we have now decades of experience dealing with them too, and we're doing pretty good with them, right? So we're satisfied with what they are. I think the argument to continue to say, because we have surplus, we can continue fulfilling, taking whatever, amount we see fit and continue adding that to the capital reserve is justifiable. I'm not sure if I agree that it really is. Because it's technically money that we
Well,
currently don't need right now, and we should think about.
if you look at the capital reserve funds in terms of what we plan on taking out is more than we're putting in.
Right.
So we're basically,
So those are going down over the years, you're saying.
so if we don't keep putting in 800,000, 600,000, so in the following year is about equal, if not, no, it's more than what we plan on putting in for 2027.
Right, but we also have rate increases that help us with that as
We
well.
don't need any.
Well, not
We
right,
have,
right,
but we haven't.
right, but meanwhile, the money ages, right, for a year or two. That's my point, so. I think this doesn't lead anywhere, but
Makes interest too.
Right.
It's, which is,
Which, it's
10,000, it's
Yeah.
like over 10 grand a month right now.
yeah, but you never make more interest than inflation usually with stuff like that. Anyway, we get this every single damn year and I'm tired of it. And I ask myself, are we just doing things because we've always done it like that? That's what I'm asking. If we have money sitting there,
to me, if you have,
I think it's prudent.
it's
I think.
prudent to put even more in out of your unassigned fund into your trust funds. Because you're generating interest. And
or we
you're
can
assigning
return some
that
of the money to the
So
ratepayer.
that you are,
Right. And then, to me, I look at it as,
Supposed to do with that.
Credit? There's a million ways we can, that's a different discussion, but
the way I see it is,
Forget
we don't raise rates every year. We raise rates when it's necessary. And we did a study, we raised rates, and now we get to, we had a good year. We don't have to touch rates again for a while. But when it comes to projects we have coming down the line, like the Everett Turnpike expansion, which is going to cost us a good amount of money
already has.
from our trust funds. We're just paying that.
Sure.
And I
But
look
we
at
plan for
somebody
it.
like, correct, but I look at the town. And they have a lot of work that's involved in those. They've made deals about having to put sidewalks in so they can get more sidewalks on bridges and all these kinds of things. They don't necessarily have a way to pay for any of that right now. And with the climate, nobody wants to pay more for that right now. So raising money for them is going to be very difficult because they don't use these funds like we use them. And you can look at the town and us in the school district, and we have an amazing savings program over years.
I don't look at these as rainy day funds. These are operational.
They're both, really.
Big projects.
They're really both. They have to be both. And I make my decisions for them to be both when I vote for this. But what I'm repeating myself, and I'm apparently pretty alone with this, but we're hearing this criticism year after year after year after year that we have two big pockets. And you said we haven't increased our rates in a while. That's true, but we actually have increased them just about a year and a half ago.
That was
Right.
That was.
But we also have increased them by how many percent in the last 5 years?
70,
So-
exactly what was predicted.
Yeah, and that's okay. And we know
Right.
why, but we're also getting criticized for it by some people. It's 70% that people now have not that they had 5 years ago. And we all know why it is. There's a million reasons for it that are to a large extent outside of our control. But I'm just asking, should we think about participating in thinking a little bit harder? Do we need to go doing this every year the same way? That's all I'm asking. Every year, we're just casually saying, okay, it's again $800,000. Maybe it doesn't have to be $800,000 this year. That's all I'm saying. Year after year, these articles read the same, more or less. And year after year, we get the same feedback. Should we think about doing something about that? Because we have the ability to do that. We have the funds, we have the capital reserve, we have the foresight of the project that we're thinking are coming down the line. We know we're more or less in balance, and we still have our emergency funds as also. So we know we have increases coming down the line, but that's a little bit on the ways out
I
until
think
then.
you're kicking the can down the road and gonna have to pay the piper more
Right.
at some point.
I'd rather not.
I'd rather gain interest than pay interest.
Right, and I'd rather not draw down the capital reserve accounts to where they're no longer serving the purpose that they are now.
I'm
mean,
not hearing a public outcry that our rates are ridiculous and I don't know, maybe in your circle.
In particular, the fact that
different, but
we're.
No,
Stand up and say no rate increase again.
you'll hear it occasionally. It's not far out by any means, and people
Yeah.
know why. But I don't think that should be the only gauge. What I'm asking is, should we do the same thing year after year after year out of habit, or should we ask ourselves, is this necessary? So
I mean, I don't know
But,
if that number is the correct number based on where we're at year after year. Maybe that's what you're asking, you know?
it's part of it, yeah.
'Cause it's
Yeah,
been
does
the
it
same.
have to be $800,000? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it was $800,000 last year.
Well, the way it was the unanticipated revenues of the previous year and anticipated revenues and what wasn't spent out of the budget, if we didn't spend the full budget, that's what usually contributed to the.
So in addition to that,
I can make it that figure. Going forward.
the 800 and I don't know if the 200,000 also, but the last rate study that Underwood did, they gave us that number. We didn't pick that number.
Right.
They said, based on the rate study, this is what we recommend you guys have to put aside in your capital reserves every year.
Right.
And that was
all-
Based on
and
future
that was just
projects.
on, I think, pipe work. I don't think that was for.
Now,
That might have been for other stuff too, but.
they haven't done an official rate study for a few years, right? Because is it on the table for next year now or something?
For
Like a full-blown-
2027 now.
Okay. So they might come up with a different number if they, because they look at all our projects, they look at demand in the system, how it's changing, all that stuff. He sent me the spreadsheet and it's
It's huge and wild.
unbelievable.
Yep.
In the SDC charge, that'll vary on the years. It's not always the same. That'll vary just on what we take in for.
I guess my point is that's where the number came from. It was recommended by Underwood several years ago, and
We used to actually even have a line item in the budget, 200,000 for capital reserves, and we had to take it out.
I remember that, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't budget for it.
So
Question.
yes, I mean, you said Underwood recommends the 800,000 to add, but what is the one, do we have a policy for it? Or two, was there a recommended amount to maintain in that capital reserve for a water district? Where does that come from?
I think we have a policy. We don't have a policy on.
How much to maintain, no.
I thought there was a
Other than
percent.
Our treasurer, or not our treasurer, our trustee, Chris Christensen loves how much we have in there. Due to the fact we have seriously planned for future endeavors, emergencies, and everything else.
So what I'm looking at, like, when you look at the balances, the estimated balances at the end of each year, it's like it goes down a little when we replenish it, but what is the amount that really needs to be there?
Yeah, it depends on what you plan on doing for that particular next
Also,
5 years.
and it also depends on emergency situations. So like, how much would it cost to replace a well if we had to?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my question. I'm not
We don't have
dictating
to
anything,
say.
it just, what's,
I thought,
this doesn't go below 3 million, right, on the equipment side?
It has not since I've been here.
Well, one argument that we had talked before, one guideline we had heard before is that you want to have half years of operationals. Basically,
That's
different.
already assigned within the budget. So that is of the,
That's in the fund balance.
exactly, so
Cash on hand.
We don't move that.
So if you back to your fund balance, you have non-spendable, which is inventory, assigned, which is your encumbered expenses from the previous year. You have your trust funds, restricted, which is the amount that we gained from the last audited year for system development. And then you have your balance reserve, which is 33% of.
which is what I'm saying. He asked if do we have policies or guidelines on how to determine those various fund balance. And I'm saying for one of those, we have the operational budget being one of the guidelines. Which
So
is
that's not for balances for the trust.
No, it's not.
That's just.
Yeah.
We reserve that as part of. It's basically taken out of the unassigned fund going and saying, we've assigned the $2 million, we cannot spend on anything else.
It just has us.
In case the world blows up, we have that money to continue operations.
am I remembering too that in some of the, one of the Underwood rate study reports or something, was there a discussion about like our distribution system? If a lot of the distribution system was put in around the same time, it's got the same age, it's gonna start failing at the same time, even though we're not experiencing that yet, there could come a day where that could happen. I'm just remembering something, reading about something like that. Maybe that was an example that they provided in the report or something, but it's for like the big cost. Cause then if we didn't have the reserves, we'd have
It
to,
was like 80 years. We're coming up on that 80 years for
yeah.
technically the pipe replacement for AC pipe. Doesn't mean it's all gonna fail.
But it may start all.
But it
And in May,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess it's at some point, right, where we gotta make the decision instead of, repairing a leak like this, we just put a whole new line in.
Right.
There's a big expense right there. you know?
Yep.
And I don't know how we would determine when it's time to do that, but it's for stuff like that, I think. I remember reading anyways, I thought in one of their rate studies that as an example, because if we didn't have enough capital reserves and now we're talking about borrowing.
But I like that idea a lot better than just having this blob of per se $800,000 a year that we shuffle over. Because
Yeah.
you have no argument. How do you argument that?
But our
Argue
argument is that we've got infrastructure that is almost 50+ years old.
Right, but-
We're planning
But we
to
can
replace
make
it.
that more specific than that, because frankly, that pond, that pocket of, I'm sorry, that pot of money is usable for quite a bit of things, right? I mean, we can very well, for example, go and look at industry standards. What is the lifetime of a water pipe in the ground, right?
And that's, yeah.
And if we have that number and we know that we are 15 years away from that or 10 years away from that, now we're having a different discussion.
And that's what we were talking about. We're gonna have, so you have that blurb there to read, and if it's further pushed on, we're gonna have examples of what we've used out of the accounts.
Mhm.
We can also add that as well, that we're planning for pipe replacement, we're planning for, this and that. That was, we're planning on having that
Okay.
as well.
All right, just before we leave this, when we have the articles in front of us, do you normally write handwritten, like who's gonna
Yeah.
move and who's gonna second? All right, that's what I thought.
You wanna real quick do the minutes?
Yeah, we
Real
could probably
quick.
do that. Number 4, the minutes from January 27th. I'm good with them. Anybody else have any questions or corrections on them? I got my edits in over the weekend. They were minor, there was only a couple little things. No one has any, just one set of minutes, right? The regular meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for January 27th. Wait a minute. If you look at the second pages, the date says February 27th on top of it. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Well, yeah, it is the February minutes, right?
I just, when I reviewed them, didn't look at it, but as I pulled the sheets back, I said, oh,
So the
It's
agenda says
heading wrong.
January. That's why I read January. Okay. February 27th.
Seconded.
All right, motion by Aaron, second by Ken.
It's the January.
Yeah, we are in
yeah,
February.
the January.
Meeting January.
Oh, yeah, what am I
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, the top is the,
Oh, the date of the, okay.
today or
Because today's the 24th.
what's the 27th?
So that should be,
That should be, I think,
Oh,
it should be 01/25. It's like the top right there.
Mhm.
All right, so as corrected. So approve the minutes as with that correction.
Yes.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah, seconded.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposition, abstention?
Abstention.
Abstention by Wolf, so that's 4-0-1
I was
with
present.
Wolf abstaining.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there for that one.
No, that was when I had a flu.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
true.
All right, so we got 3 minutes, but shall we move into the
Probably a line at the door, I don't know.
public hearing? If someone pops in at 7 o'clock, we'll just start over.
I got 6:58.
Yeah, so I guess, so at this point, we will, do we need motion and recess? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
All right, so does someone want to make a recess so we can go into public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Wolf, second by Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 5-0-0. So we are, now I'm going to open the public hearing. I declare the public hearing relative to the Merrimack Village District proposed 2025-2026 operating budget and warrant articles open for comments. And the notice of this public hearing was advertised in the online version of the Nashua Telegraph in the February 23rd, 2025 printed edition. The public hearing notice was also posted on the Merrimack Village District website, www.mvdwater.org, at the Merrimack Village District office, at the Merrimack Town Hall, post office, and library. Purpose of this hearing is to allow comments from the public in relation to the proposed 2025-2026 operating budget and warrant articles. When all comments have been received, I will close the public hearing. The board will go into session to consider action on the proposed 2025-2026 budget and warrant articles. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any questions about this procedure. For the record, there is no public in the room. Can we check and see if there's anybody on the, nobody on the Zoom call either? All right, do I see any questions from anybody on this? And seeing none,
About those capital reserves. Just kidding.
so I see no questions from the public. There's no press here. So I see no questions. Any questions from the press that's not here? No, so I guess we can move on. Seeing no further questions, I declare this public hearing closed. The time is 7 o'clock.
It's actually 7:01, so take.
7:01, the Board of Commissioners will now reopen the session, regular session of the Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners meeting to conclude any additional business. So we need a motion to go back into the regular session.
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Wolf, second by Aaron. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 500. So we're back in the regular session.
Excuse me, Don.
Yes.
When do we vote? So we have,
I think now is the time that I can entertain.
okay.
Yeah, I think we have to do that in the public session. That's why we're back. So at this point, we could probably do all of the warrant articles in one shot, I imagine. So I guess I would entertain a motion to approve moving the 2025 2026.
I'm actually gonna be a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna vote. I would like to, we can do all but the Article 4. No, 5
Okay,
in
all
one shot.
right, so if you want to move those articles with the exception of Article 4, is that what you're saying, or 5?
5.
5,
800.
right. So Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7 to the ballot.
So moved,
So Wolf
As-
makes that
proposed, yep.
motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, so then I'll entertain a second motion to move Article 5 to the ballot.
I have one question. The article is going to the ballot. It's whether or not you approve, when they recommended by commissioners.
Right,
So either way, the article's going.
Yes.
It's a matter or not if
unless,
one of the commissioners want to vote nay.
Correct,
yes,
correct.
right. So does somebody have somebody gonna make a motion to move Article 5, did you say?
I'll make a motion to move Article 5.
Okay, do I have a second for Article 5?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of moving Article 5 to the ballot signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppositions?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay, so no abstentions, because so that Article 5 moves to the ballot with the approval of a 3-2
0.
margin
Right.
with
3-2.
no abstentions. And
Or 1? 4 yes, 1 no? No abstention?
for
No.
3-2,
Me too.
There's two.
with Wolf and Scott in the
Oh.
negative.
Yes.
You guys realize that you're presenting and seconding the article at the meeting, right?
I'm presenting
I've got 5, yeah.
4.
Yeah,
Not presenting,
that's presenting.
or seconding.
Yeah, but we still,
Okay.
when
Yeah,
we're,
it's still on the ballot. I mean, again, keep in mind, I'm not against the article per se. I'm against the 800,000. So, and if anybody asks me that, I will say so. So, I mean, we can also rearrange that.
No, it's just, when we, when we're doing the vote, we're gonna put up the cards. You know, and so
You can
Dawn
vote
and.
wherever you want at that time. too,
Thought
you
they
know?
can just say nay or not put up.
Right.
So it's just him reading it doesn't mean he's necessarily approving.
But as it's gonna be presented to the public at that annual meeting, the recommendation for Article 5 is gonna be
3
the
to
Board
2.
of Commissioners 320.
Yep.
Right. So someone might ask that, and then you'll answer why.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, and we can change it. I mean, I'm not opposed to changing it. Would be 30-second.
I mean, talking about it,
Yeah,
moving and seconding.
yeah, we can switch that to somebody else.
I'm just saying that's not an issue. I mean, you guys can do that, but
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
it's not an
Explaining what it's
issue.
for, right?
Yeah,
What's that?
We're only explaining what it's for.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm not concerned yeah.
Well, you can move it and second it and then not vote for it,
It's all right.
which would be kind of funny, but if you want to change it, we can change it.
guys.
I
The
could
vote
swap
here
4 and
today,
5.
the recommendation is not the vote at the meeting. Here, we're voting as
Yeah.
commissioners. At the meeting, we're voting as voters and,
Right.
and civilians, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess
it's
you're
perfectly
right.
fine
Yeah.
to vote for these at the meeting, right?
Right.
All I wanted to do is I wanted to voice my concern that we're doing business as usual without asking a question, do we need to do it? Right? And I feel that that's warranted. That doesn't mean that I'm against the article once it's on the ballot.
Right, and I'll just,
I would just like to say, you probably really need to be prepared for questions about the $800,000, where it came from Underwood's study and backing that up. Because it's gonna draw questions.
And by the way, I'm not running for any office. This is not why I'm doing this. It's just something that I felt every year uncomfortable for, and I want to do something about it.
All right,
Don't want anybody to get any false impressions here.
but just to be clear, at the annual meeting, there's a motion in a second, correct?
Yes.
All
Mhm.
right,
But that has nothing to do with the vote.
right, all right. All right, so we can move on. We are now to, do we have action items on here?
They're not on the thing. I think we just,
Yeah,
does that mean we get to go past?
not on the agenda, not specifically. but that's
Technically, they're
fine.
old
Well,
business.
actually, before
Yes,
the action
right.
items, right? No, yeah, before the action item, you have old business and new business.
Yeah.
And questions from the public.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 8 is action item.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they were part of the minutes or something, but
Oh, we didn't, okay.
yeah, it's on there. It's number 8.
Technically, they are old business. I'm not even sure why we list them separate on the agenda. That's what they are every time.
Okay. So we'll keep the action items for later. We did it this
We're
way.
in a public session now, we can move forward. You voted to move.
Yeah, but it's agenda item 8 is action items for some reason.
Yeah.
But do you want to do them now?
I kind of, I agree with Wolf. It's technically old business, so.
Yeah. All right, so let's do the action items. First one that's be addressed in February is number 2, which is the PFAS sample points in the distribution system. Those are included in the packet. We kind of touched on those a little earlier. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions or comments on that.
Nope.
So those are quarterly, right? So we can change that going forward. Number
Clarify,
23.
Right,
Go ahead.
23,
Yeah.
yeah, because you
Yeah.
said 2 earlier.
Yeah, so number 23 would go out 3 more months. What's that? June, March, April,
May.
May, sorry. So number 23 can get changed to May. Number 43 is a monthly item, and that's the ongoing salt mitigation committee meetings. Any status update on that? Was there a doodle poll? I didn't think I saw one. Is that what this is about? Number 43?
No, we sent out the salt letter. Ron mentioned the superintendent's report. We're getting data from that. That's going to the salt committee.
I thought we do a poll to set up a meeting.
We're gonna do a steering committee. But we had to meet with DOT first. That's the steering committee's next.
All right, so that, when are we don't have anything in the plan for the next meeting?
Not at this time, we still have to meet with the steering committee first. Was around Jamie's schedule, he's gonna be away.
All right, so maybe next month we'll have more information on that one. Number 58, mineral graphs quarterly. Don't think those are in
Those are
the
not in there.
packet. Those-
No, those should be ready for next month.
All right, so let's change number 58, the date, the last column to March. What else
So
we got?
March is only in like 2 weeks for the meeting. Do we want to put that up to April? will we-
No, because they were actually due today, so
Okay.
maybe they're gonna come in the next 2 weeks. Not sure.
Find out in March.
He's under contract to do these and he's gonna bill for it one way or the other, or what? That's,
Yeah, no.
he doesn't, if he skips a quarter, then we shouldn't get a bill for it. If that happens, right? So let's,
I'm almost thinking they were in the last,
Last packet.
the minerals?
yeah, didn't he have the invoice for the mineral graphing in the last pamphlet? Not pamphlet.
Oh, and
what's it
the,
called?
Manifest.
Manifest, thank you.
Look into it, see where,
I was thinking they were.
there were two from them.
The
Yeah.
big one was maybe pulling the samples.
Maybe it was from like November or something, I don't know.
No,
Normal
okay,
thing.
okay.
Yeah, just look into that. Maybe if he billed for it, maybe they're done. He just didn't send them to us. I don't know. He doesn't do them himself, right? Somebody else does.
I don't know anymore. He was doing them, but he's got additional staff now.
Yeah. All right, what is this? Number 59 says wait for number 85.
Accounting software.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll go to 67. I'm assuming there's no movement on the salt signs.
No, that was all pending on the salt.
The letter from the-
Designation of the, yeah, okay. All right, when we want to change this date from February to, you want to just put it out March or April or something?
April, June.
Yeah. It's not gonna get, I mean, it doesn't matter at this point until,
Yeah.
Have a good Meeting Friday, we should get some answers from the town,
Yeah,
go to the
true.
letter, and that'll get to the
Thursday,
DOT,
yeah.
so might as well put it up for next month.
yeah. All right, so number 67 we'll do for March. Number 79 is a monthly issue, and that's the water line extension status. I think that was in the superintendent report. So that's good. That number 85, financial accounting software. Anything new on that?
Not at this time.
All right. So when do you want to move that out to?
I would say April. Since
All
we'll
right.
not be here for March.
All right, so number 85, let's move that out to April.
I think I asked that 2 months ago, but I'm not sure if I know the answer. There was a budget line item that was affected by that, some savings that we expected from switching to the new software, right? So since we're now pushing this out and the year's coming to an end soon, what does that do? Are we still with it?
Because it's a roll-up budget, we're still okay,
Okay. Okay.
but I'd like those savings.
Yeah.
All right. Number 88, that was included in the superintendent report too, the pilot testing. So I guess we can move on from that. That's a monthly item. Solar power options, we discussed that. There's gonna be, we're gonna try to get another vendor in here to talk about actually putting panels on our property somewhere. Is there someone that we have lined up for that already?
Sounded like there was a couple.
Went out to an electrician. That was the. That recommendation came through.
Waiting on a call back from Jeff Kitty from Custom Electric. We also put it out to Ewing, I think it was. Ewing Electric. I haven't heard back from them. I'm just waiting for callbacks.
So that's the type of work that these guys do? Are they familiar with like the payback into the grid and all that stuff? The administrative part of it?
Find out when they call back.
Okay,
I'm gonna touch base with Wendy as well. See if-
yeah, yeah. All right. All right, so that's monthly anyway, so we'll have a report next month. Number 95, I think you already updated that about the Cinco Bay water line extensions. So that's monthly, we'll just leave that as is. Number 98, Mitchell Woods PFAS status and power supply, that was listed for February. I know we, well, that's not related to the power supply, but we approved Jamie to do some pump tests out there.
Yep.
At the last meeting,
I'm planning on doing that in the spring, wrapping it up with some other projects that are gonna be down here too.
right?
So maybe like,
I thought the power supply was confirmed that they could invert
Just
single phase power.
right,
So I don't know if there's really a reason to keep that on as a question.
maybe we could just move it to like June so that when we get Jamie's PFAS results and everything that they're gonna do this spring back, we can revisit it again.
Yeah, let's change 98 to, let's look at May. That way we can see if there's any updates, or at least when he's intending on doing the pump test. And then number 99, no, that was March, so we can skip that. So I guess, and then the cyber stuff is in April. Well, that concludes the action items. Is there anything to add to this from today's meeting yet?
Not add, but possibly take off. What's the reasoning that 87's on there? It seems more like a. Where does that letter come from the commissioners?
It comes from the staff.
Okay, does that need to be an MVD or a board action item?
I think it's set for September, so we can talk about it in September to the letter to go out in October again.
Yeah, these are kind of like ticklers also, so like things aren't forgotten or something too. It's kind
And
of
is that
how
for
I,
us to deal with?
well, if they're forgotten, then yeah, I'd say they are. So things might have been in the past. That's why some of these are on here like that. In my opinion, it's easy enough just to skip over if it says September.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just
Yeah.
operational to me. Something that's, responsibility of the staff to do. So.
Yeah. Anybody else have any preference on any of that? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The only, I mean, this one might be different because it's the salt thing is so critical, right? But in general, we have annual recurring activities, right? We had the discussion the other day and you ended up adding to the budget calendar, right? Which may or may not be the right place for it to be. But this is probably another one of those that could go on there as well. And then we rely on you to present it, right? So in a sense, I agree with Scott that there should be a day when we don't need that anymore, right? And I think usually this stuff is getting pretty good, right? It's just occasional that we have to follow up on it. So maybe think about a way.
Backup really is the way
It is, but it takes time, right?
All right. So we can move on to old business. Anybody have any old business? You have your hand up? No? All right. We talked about something last time about the reduced salt signs in the no salt routes. Did you say that you were gonna talk to Paul about that or DPW or
I
something?
need to talk to, Lori. I have not had it.
Yeah.
On my list of things to check, I have not had a chance yet to get.
Yeah, all right,
Plan on doing it.
all right, that was all.
I was
I
doing it last week on the day that I was. Planning on
I
going.
mean, if you have your own list of stuff to do, we don't have to make an action item of it.
Yeah, no, I'm,
Right.
it's,
Okay,
I wanted to, so what I ended up doing was I pulled their winter maintenance plan. So I wanted to kind of get familiar with that again before I went over and talked with her, and then I did notice a couple things on it. I pulled the minutes we were talking about, so I wanted to get things in order. before
Yeah, all
I went over
right,
and talked to her.
okay.
So I just kind of review things, and I pulled certain sections out of the plan, the different routes, and it, it does say, so one thing I did notice, and I want to ask her about, the plan calls for 50% less salt in the wellhead protection areas on the roads they can use less salt on. But there's also a chart in the manual that says, certain temperatures, it's so many pounds per lane mile for salt. So that target can vary. And I know from past discussions, they've said that I think it's 150 pounds per lane mile they use. But that could be a moving target if they're going by temperature and everything else.
yeah,
It could be potentially less salt. So if they're just blanketing 150 pounds per lane mile, even when they salt in no salt areas, technically they should be using less. So if they're going by temperature, that's why I was kind of.
I noticed on my street, they use sand for the first time in 3 years. I've never seen sand there. But this last storm, and I'm thinking maybe why did they run out of salt? Maybe that's why they're using sand now.
There is a salt shortage, but I don't think they ran out of salt.
Maybe they're using it more.
Maybe because of the type of the storm. And like this last one where it was sleet and rain
Yeah.
and sleet.
Yeah,
Maybe it was just a little better option at the time.
But I was also driving around in other towns, Hudson. I noticed that all their streets that I was driving around there are all sanded. And I don't know why that wouldn't be an option in the no salt roads in this town. Used to be sanded up. My road was sanded all the time.
Yep.
And then like 5 years ago, it's all salt. And it was a no salt road all along. So if we had a meeting with the salt committee, then these are questions I would bring up. That's where I think it would get an answer because they participate in those meetings.
Yep.
All right, new business? Anybody have any new business? I don't think I have anything here. I was gonna mention the meeting, the town council meeting Thursday. I'll try to go to that if I can. At this point, I think I'm free. So, on the agenda, I don't know if there's a time on that for that. It's the first thing on the agenda, I think, after like the announcements and comments and all that stuff. So,
like I said, I'll plan on going as well.
okay. What else did I have here?
Right. I actually did have a thought. Thank you. Just wondering the approval of like the manifest and stuff. Is that something that we need to keep doing as a board? Is there?
I think there's a requirement by law to do that.
So I read the law and I didn't get that. It says somebody needs to be responsible for it, but it doesn't say it has to be the board.
Really?
If I read it properly.
I don't know if that's an internal policy then?
We have an internal policy, yes. So I'm questioning the policy.
The policy or bylaw?
I think it's a policy.
It's a policy, not a bylaw?
I think somebody sent it. I
I've
think I'd gotten it.
always had to have our board, no matter where I work,
Well, it's still,
but
yeah,
doesn't mean anyway.
okay. Maybe we can just follow up and double check that, because when I read through the RSA, it just says that somebody needs to be responsible for it, but it doesn't say it's the board. Because that was like when I first joined, that was the first question I had. Why am I approving this? It's like, I don't know, is there value in it? I mean, oversight definitely, but if there's you and then, Ron or Jill, you've got two sets of eyes looking at it, that kind of eliminates, the risk. Like there has to be two people that are being nefarious to cause issues. I'm not saying that you guys, maybe you are, I don't know, but generally, as long as you have that second approver, the second set of eyes, that's enough. But if we have a policy that's holding us back from that, I'm just like you ask us for these approvals and then you're waiting for it, you don't get it, you need it from, at least 3 people. Seems like a pain point to me and an extra step in a process we might not need. So if we can look at that and
Definitely look into it. I thought you had to sign, but I don't know now, but you say that.
When you look at, I've never seen. My knee-jerk reaction when he mentioned that was like, well, yeah, the board needs to do that, right? But then I started thinking about that.
Council doesn't do it.
The town council doesn't do it.
They sign a
school
bunch
board?
of documents, like they have like a basket or whatever that they go in and have to sign documents regularly. So they may be signing.
We just don't see it.
We just don't we do it like an email form. They may be actually signing pay manifest or something like that.
But it does read when you start reading into it, it does really not read that the board needs to do it at all. And I always felt that that's one of the things that I should be doing as a board member, but realistically, there's a couple, if somebody is running down to Lowe's and picking up some tools, if I sign up, that that's legit or not, or maybe one of your supervisors knows.
Right.
I have no clue.
Right. I look through every slip before you guys.
Right. And I mean, I
sign off.
Right. And that's actually why I sign it, because you sign it. Frankly, that's exactly why I sign it, because I do a sanity check, right? Which you guys know from the water bottles. But it's kind of pointless really, because I really don't know. Right. And I only, for the most part, sign it because you guys sign it.
I mean, we can still get it for awareness, just for that oversight, but as far as approving it, I don't know. If it's not necessary, then take it out of the process.
I almost want to say it was something with the,
I believe it's the total dollar amount you guys are approving to expend. But we're also having the treasurer do it right afterwards.
And
But
we have an
attaching
approved
the
budget, right?
approval Saying that you guys have approved
and that's what I'm leaning on it.
expending, and she's giving me the approval to cut the check.
I mean, the board technically
So I gotta read it.
all the board really does is developing a proposal for a budget to the voter. The voter approves it. In that moment, the voter approved the budget for you to expend, right?
Yeah.
For you to expend as superintendent and with the team.
I almost think it's almost like the board's approving the treasurer pay that bill, but we'll look into it.
We'll look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's required or not, I don't know. That's what we're asking. But my personal belief is I like seeing them because that helps me keep a tab on what our, engineers are doing.
Yeah, you can still see them.
Yeah.
I can still send them out. I
Yeah.
just don't have to wait for your approval.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be a problem when, people are traveling or not, so, I know.
Like, I need 2 more.
right. And we don't want to hold things up, but. So, I mean, it's a good question. If what's like legally required, I guess, is what we're questioning, right? Legally or if it's by policy or something, I guess.
I saw a policy that says that the board will approve it.
Yeah.
But when you read the RSA, it doesn't say that that's the requirement. That's just what we did to ourselves, basically.
Yeah. I know a previous commissioner was asking me and felt uncomfortable doing that because he didn't think he had enough of a handle on it. He was signing something that he didn't feel he was involved with intimately enough to be signing it.
It's true. I forgot about that.
And I just told him, if you're not comfortable, don't do it. You know what I mean? But it kind of puts more
Pressure on the other
ones to get timely responses. So I can understand. If everyone felt that way, then no one would sign it.
Right, nothing gets paid.
So maybe it's good to know what's required, I guess, if we can find that out somehow.
Both the RSA and the policy. I
Okay,
mean, if it's, the RSA is as open as you have read it, then it's just a policy change for you guys to vote on.
maybe if that doesn't make you have to wait 3 extra days, that might help, So
So, yeah, with
Yeah.
that, if there's any other pain points, I'd like to know about them. You know, if there's policies that don't make sense anymore or anything like that, then, you know, let's bring them up.
Right. The only last thing I had, I'm just wondering, we're spending a lot of money on this wholesale agreement. We're not really using any water with Penachuk, so I'm wondering, would it make sense for someone to look at if we abolish the wholesale agreement, then we go back to the retail rate as if we'd only open up that connection at an emergency. But the little bit of water that we use in an emergency would probably still be significantly less costly than.
Well, we have like a couple of years worth of data now to look at.
Look at that, we could run some numbers.
And I don't know if I'm just going off a wet year in 2023 and I don't know. It just seems like we're shelling out a whole bunch of money for nothing. It's for an insurance policy. And we don't want to open that spigot because it's got PFOA in it. It does. You've measured it.
No, it absolutely does. You know, the flip side to just going back on to the emergency
Yeah.
is it wasn't guaranteed. So when we needed
Just about to
it,
say that.
Yeah.
when we needed it, we're being told.
We're last priority.
Yeah, you gotta shut down. They have the contract with us, you don't, so.
Yep.
Then I'm trying to work out deals. I can't get out.
That was actually one of the main
Yeah.
reasons why we entered it, actually.
Yeah.
That was the.
I just hate to see that money being
Maybe
spent. We're not.
you could look at how much we've really used and maybe negotiate a smaller contract.
I don't know if they would go less than they could. I mean,
Well, that was what. It was PUC approved, but that was our peak though. Our max, I'm sorry, our max day.
Covering what we really needed to
Yeah,
cover if we had to.
Things went crazy and.
It's true.
yeah, they allow you double max,
Right.
but double your average on a max day. Underwood was saying we're chasing 500,000 gallons a day. So that's why we went with a 250,000 gallon average because it allowed us to use 500,000.
Yeah.
And we haven't really used it,
Like,
But we also haven't had a drought
right.
We haven't.
Yeah.
True.
since we
We
signed
could
it.
use it a little bit, beginning of.
We've used it more of an emergency, really.
Yeah, this year, I think, was it this year?
Yeah.
My dates are all melding.
Because wasn't like 7 and 8 down or something and
It was in June, we used a small portion and we haven't used it since.
So I think when we signed up with this thing, we didn't really think about the fact that we don't want to use it as a source because it has PFOA in it. We thought about that. You weren't even here, right?
I think I thought we talked about it, that we weren't gonna use it if we didn't need it.
Yeah.
And it was, I
We haven't
think,
dropped the level, we don't know either.
Right.
Again, we had 2 very dry years also when we started
before
talking
that,
about this,
yeah.
right? So I recall that we
Alright.
wanted to try and keep it for emergency purposes,
Yeah,
right?
I just was putting it out there to see if we're in a different place now because
we go off of it. We're gonna
then
have
we're
that.
know,
gonna have the drought, we're gonna
one
be.
way or the other, man.
Slammed.
But I also want to say that at the time we had well 3 on and now that's gone and well 9 is online. And I think the combination of wells 2 and 9,
Get a little bit more
we
water.
have a little more actual of our own water.
Yeah.
So that helped too, So I don't know. I don't know if it's worth
That's
asking
like
Underwood to
camel.
evaluate this or, we're paying $300,000 a year, right?
This next fiscal year is the last year of the contract, except for 2 months into 2027, because it didn't align with our fiscal year.
And we can terminate
So
any
it's
time.
definitely-
It's not like we have to wait the end of the year. We can terminate any time. So it's not like we have to think about this now, but just putting it out there. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say anything more.
I think one of the arguments we had is that, a new well is anywhere from, $3 to $5 million easily, right? What's the number back then we had said about maybe now 3 to 6 or 4 to 6 even. So basically the argument was we can pay for this for 10 years and not use it, right? And
Have the insurance.
have the insurance, right? So, and in 10 years, there's more than likely at least 1 or 2 droughts, right? If not more.
Yeah.
So I think we had that discussion to a certain extent. It's one of the things
Right.
like paying insurance. It pays when you don't need it, or it hurts when you don't need it, right? But when you do need it, you're glad you have
Yeah.
it. So I know it's the question.
Not gonna, I mean, Don Ware has mentioned me on a couple of occasions, you're the best customer we've.
I bet.
I mean, the other question is, where did these 300,000 come from originally? And can we go back and renegotiate them too, right? Maybe not for this year, but for the following
Maybe we
years.
tell them we're gonna cancel it unless we can give us a better deal. And hope he's not watching right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
No.
I don't.
Well, the rate was, they're covering their cost. So I don't know if they could go any lower.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
less.
was previously approved, so,
Well, we could ask.
but it's something, we can certainly ask, I hate. You've seen our history, can we go with a different rate, but.
Okay.
They're putting that 300,000 to their capital reserve fund every year.
probably. I don't know what they're doing with it, but
Maybe they could use it to subsidize us for not using it.
Ask them what kind of billing software they have. Oh, that was low key.
all right, and I'm done with that. Any other old business questions from the press and public? I still don't think we have anybody on the Zoom. There's nobody here in the office. So next meeting is on March 10th. It's not the normal third Monday, it's the second Monday of the month, March 10th. And then the annual meeting follows on Tuesday, March 25th. So other than that, I guess I'll hear a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Motion by
Second.
Ken, second by Wolf. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. 500. Thanks, Merrimack. See you next month.